Harshita. I'm a 16-year-old app developer, designer, and entrepreneur. I created an app called Crypto Price Tracker, which is a cryptocurrency price tracker and portfolio management app. I launched the app on the App Store on 28 January of this year, and within 24 hours of launch, the app was number 2 in finance on the App Store top charts. It was featured on Product Hunt, was viral on Reddit, and my story about building the app got very popular on Medium. I was then interviewed by Times of India and dozens of other media news outlets like the Daily Beast, Inc., Your Story, Bitcoin News, etc. About 2 weeks ago, the app got acquired by Redwood City Ventures, which is a VC firm in Silicon Valley. In this video, I'm going to share the step-by-step design process that I took on when designing the Crypto Price Tracker app. The design process in 7 steps is simple. 1. You get started with user research and create a product spec that has details about all the features that you've decided to build in the product. Number 2 is creating a user flow diagram for each screen. Number 3 is drawing wireframes for each of the screens. Next is choosing a color palette and design patterns for each screen. Next is creating mockups, then creating an animated app prototype and asking people to test it and provide feedback. And finally, the last step is to give touches or final touches to the mockups to have the screens all ready for importing in the IDE for coding the app. I'm now going to tell you in much more detail what each step includes. Starting with user research. The first step when building a new product is always to figure out what features your users want. This will require researching the market and talking to target audience. Ask people what they wish was better about existing products if you're building an improved solution to a problem that has been solved by other products. If you're innovating something new, ask people what they want in an app idea like yours for them to use it every day, which is to find it useful enough. Once you have your list of ideas, put them in a document and that will be your product spec. When I started out with Crypto Price Tracker app idea, all I had in my head was that I wanted to make an app that crypto investors and just people interested in cryptocurrencies would love and it fulfills their needs. So I interviewed almost 30 people in my network who I knew were into cryptocurrencies and asked what they wish was better about other Crypto Price Tracker and portfolio management apps. At the end of 1 week of interviewing, I came up with a huge features list, which is a really good sign because it means that people badly wanted a new app for this market need. After the interviews, I also researched on the internet, mostly lurked around subreddits like our Bitcoin and our cryptocurrency, researched a little bit on Core as well, etc. So that's how I learned about the market before I even started doing any tangible product development. And I think it's very important to make something people want if you want your app or your product to do well. Next is creating a user flow diagram. A user flow diagram is a very high-level representation of a user's journey throughout your app or website. Usually, a user flow diagram is made up of 3 types of shapes. Rectangles are used to represent screens. Diamonds are used to represent decisions. And finally, arrows link up screens and decisions together. Decisions, for example, is like tapping the login button, swiping to the left, zooming in, or selecting something on the screen, etc. User flow diagrams are super helpful because they give a logical idea and a really good logical idea of how the app would function. And here's a user flow diagram I drew when I started out working on the design of my app. Really basic, but it gives a good idea of what the final product would look like, or one of the screens. Once I complete the user flow diagrams for each screen and have designed user journeys, I begin working on wireframing all the screens. Wireframes are essentially low-fidelity representations of how your app will look. Essentially, a sketch or an outline of where images, labels, buttons, and all the stuff will go with their layout and positioning. A rough sketch of how your app will work. I use printed templates from UI Stencils for drawing the wireframes. It saves time and gives a really nice canvas to draw on and make notes. Here's an example wireframe of the same screen that I showed you in a user flow diagram for. After sketching the wireframes, you can use an app called Pop by Marvel and take a picture of all your drawings using the app and have a prototype by linking up all the screens through the buttons. Next, we select the design patterns for each type of screen and choose a color palette for your entire product. This is my favorite part because it's kind of like window shopping. Lots of design patterns and color palettes to choose from, and I go about picking the ones that I kind of like, and I start experimenting with them. The best platforms to find design patterns are mobile patterns and patterns. And to find good color palettes, go to Color Hunt. Next up is creating mockups. This is when we finally convert the pencil drawings to pixels. This is when you finally move on to using design software. A mockup in the design sense is a high fidelity representation of your design. It's almost like you went into this app in the future and took some screenshots from it. It should look realistic and pretty much like the real thing. There are design software and tools for creating mockups. I use Affinity Designer and Sketch. The most commonly used tool for iOS design is Sketch. But you can also use the Adobe CC Suite or any other software that you're familiar with. Here's an example of some of the early designs of my app. After I showed it to some friends, I experimented more with various color palettes. I shared these initial mockups with my friends for their feedback and the users that I had interviewed in the first step. A lot of the people seemed to like the gold gradient and black scheme. So, something I learned that day. Be willing to take feedback and experiment with new suggestions. You'll find amazing ideas come from your users when you talk to them. Not when you frantically scroll through Dribble or Behance or any other design community. So I redesigned the mockup and removed the background graphs because generating them on the app was going to be a technically time-consuming process and the reduced readability, and this is what the redesigned mockup looked like. I was pretty satisfied with the color scheme, icons on the tab bar, and the overall layout and look and feel of the app or of the screen. I went ahead and designed the rest of the screens following the same design guidelines. It was a long but surely a fun process. Once all of my screens were ready, I put together a prototype in Adobe XD and asked a few friends to experiment and give feedback. Creating an animated prototype by linking all the screens is your next step. And finally, step number 7 is final touches and such, and this is what the final design of my app looks like. And that's it. After all the screens were completed, where I followed the exact same design process and principles, I imported all the screens into Xcode and began coding the app. I'm going to end this video with one of my favorite quotes about design by one of my role models, Steve Jobs. Design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. Thank you.